What are two unpopular opinions I have about business? My name is Nick McLean, most boring guy in private equity. I have about 15 years of experience in private equity, mergers and acquisitions, etc. And throughout that 15 years, talked to a lot of different business owners, a lot of different people in business and in a variety of roles. And what I'll tell you is there's a few different common themes that I've heard, well, two in particular. When they're relayed to me, it's almost a source of pride. And over the years, I've started to realize that personally, I wouldn't be prideful about those things. And quite frankly, that might be an unpopular opinion. But stay tuned to today and I'll tell you about those opinions that I have and why I personally aren't a fan of them. Before I get into it, I'd like to talk a little bit about survivorship bias. Essential part of the survivorship bias is you look at the survivors and try to determine why they survived and try to get some learnings about the situation based off. And how that applies here is whenever I'm talking about some of these, you might think of, oh, well, company XYZ, they do it exactly the way you think they should not, and look how successful they are. Granted, there are going to be those exceptions. However, I kind of view those as the survivors, might be looking at who was able to succeed despite making these missteps, if you will. So again, I'm not saying I'm right here. I'm admitting that these are my opinions that are very possibly unpopular, but I just want to keep that in mind, that when looking at how companies are successful, there's a risk to using a survivorship bias and only looking at the successful companies. Now what are some of these unpopular opinions that I have? Well, the first relates to marketing. Many times I've been talking to a business owner and they'll tell me that growing their business to where they are today with no marketing, and they're very proud about that, actually. And I get it. It's look how my company has 20, 30, 40 million dollars of revenues, and we've only grown by word of mouth. We do such a good job for our customers. We don't have to market, etc., etc. I have two pushbacks to that mindset. Well, the first is been able to grow your business to 20, 30, 50 million of revenue without marketing. Think how big your company could be if you did have an effective marketing program, or you had more salespeople, or this or that. I understand that not everyone's goal is to grow the company as big as they should be, but again, my perspective is that if you were interested in growth at one point and you wanted to grow your company, then perhaps you probably should have maybe looked at marketing a little bit harder and thought about what you could do to market your company more effectively. The other point is a little bit more nuanced. Whenever we look at the companies that we're potentially going to invest in or purchase, always think about what levers we can pull in order to grow revenues. And the first place we always start within that analysis is sales and marketing. Even though we have a focus on sales and marketing, what I would tell you is that it's still hard to do. We're not perfect at it. We're gonna spend a lot of money, or we're going to spend money, and if we had a crystal ball, then we'd be able to spend that money much more effectively and get much greater returns, or reduce the amount of money, only spend it in one bucket and get the same amount of returns. Whenever we see a company that has made an effort to implement a sales and marketing team, or even just a sales and marketing strategy, that's attractive to us because we understand that we're not going to be solely responsible for figuring out the sales and marketing strategy, that we're not going to have to make all the mistakes, that some of the mistakes and learnings have already taken place, so that we can apply our experience and really help take the company to the next level. I can see how some people might say, well, yeah, you just want the current owners to spend all the money, make all the mistakes, so that you can come in and just reap all the benefits. I mean, that's not true. I mean, our perspective is that sure, there are going to be mistakes and inefficient use of marketing dollars before. I guarantee you, we're going to do the same thing. So it's not as if we simply want to just swoop in and we know it's going to be smooth sailing, just going to ride on not the coattails, but ride on all the hard work of of the former owners and just have this great return. No, it's not that at all. It's a continually evolving process where look at what you've done in the past and it influences what you do in the future. And you know what? One of the other hard parts of sales and marketing is that, what worked in the past isn't necessarily going to work in the future. So for all those reasons, we really are much more interested in companies that have the foresight to think about what an effective sales and marketing strategy might be, not only because it's likely going to lead to the company being more successful today, but we'll feel like we'll be in a better position to really help take that company to the next level over the next 3, 5, 7 years. The second unpopular opinion I have is about debt. Again, oftentimes we'll talk to business owners that will be proud or very happy their company has no debt on the books. And on one hand, that is good. It's great that the company is generating enough free cash flow to not only fund its current operations, but also potentially invest in growth and whatever the future might hold. So that's definitely I'll say. However, similarly to how we thought about market, we think the same way about growth. Was growth constrained because the business owner did not want to take on debt to buy a new piece of equipment or this or that? Again, this is nuanced. There's different layers of why this is or isn't a big deal. Is it purely just because the business owner has an aversion to debt and just does not want to have any debt on the books? Or is it something more? And what I mean by that is, sometimes we talk to business owners and they'll just say, oh, like it would be so easy to go out and get that business. All we've got to do is just do X, Y, and Z. And if we do X, Y, and Z, oh, so easy, we'll be able to get that business, no problem. And, just sitting on the other side of the table, kind of thinking, okay, if these things are so easy to do, why haven't you done them already?
If it's so simple, why haven't you done them?
Sometimes we'll ask the question directly, but sometimes we won't. I mean, the times that we've asked that question, it's, well, all you need is that one piece of equipment. Why didn't you buy it? Well, I didn't want to take on the debt to do that. Well, why didn't you want to take on the debt? Oh, well, I just don't like having any debt, et cetera, et cetera. And I get it. We're all humans with different aspects of our personality, and some people are really fearful of this, some people are really fearful of that. But from our perspective is, to some degree, it's if you're so sure about that, strategy or new product line being successful, that all you needed to do was, take out a line to buy a piece of equipment, but you didn't have the confidence. Why should I have the confidence that's a sure path to doubling the business, increasing revenues by 20 or 30% or whatever? It's less about the actual situation, in this case, that the company doesn't have debt on the books, and more about, okay, why does the company not have debt? What would be different about the company or the size of the company or whatever if they had taken on debt to pursue growth or whatever? So, again, I'm not saying that these are, universal truths where you should always spend a ton of money or some money on sales and marketing, or you should always have a debt on the company because if you don't, that means you haven't pursued all the growth that you could. However, the point is just that, but I do think in many situations that it would be. So my question for you is, I labeled these as unpopular opinions. I mean, do you think they should be unpopular? Do you agree with them, disagree with them, somewhere in the middle? I mean, let me know, because I always want to think about ways to improve how I interact with business owners, how I think about the business, how I evaluate the business. And I would really appreciate feedback to just let me know if perhaps I should be thinking about these two areas differently.